Okay, you guys have been brought into this cloakroom where this conversation has just come to a bit of a peak. The last thing that was said was Lord Colhelm speaking, and he says, "Our first order of business should be to commission a party to seek out the reason for Lord Gaiman and Lady Incant's absence. Lord Kotazar," and he gestures to the large ogre in the room. He says, "You have many strong warriors and scouts in your region. Perhaps you can send a party to locate and determine the fate of Lady Incant." And then before he even finishes his sentence, the door to the cloakroom opens up, and you are all ushered into the room. And everybody stops and looks at you. And there's just a slight moment of awkward silence, and then Lord Files will... he gets a big smile on his face and he says, "Ah, my saviors, please come." And he gestures you all over to him. You're muted, Tony.
Yep.
Oh, I just tried. My microphone was off. Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
So that's what we heard when we walked in?
Yeah, that was Lord Files gesturing you all to come over next to him.
That was the caster in the big battle, right?
Yes.
That's right.
It's okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I canceled my keybind, and it seems like it never took, so I guess I will have to press to talk. So I guess I will go forward and I will bow.
Yes, and a few of the lords and ladies whisper to each other when they see Korak, and they recognize who he is.
Are we expected to bow?
These are the lords of the land and ladies.
All right, so then
my previous noble upbringing would preclude me to do the same as Korak. I would approach and I would do my traditional bow, say, "Lords, ladies."
bow, but as he's doing, he's kind of like looking around, like, "Am I doing it right? Huh?" But he does do an actual bow.
Mm-hmm. Where do elves fall in? Like, are they ruled, or do they just live on land that is ruled by humans?
There are a few elven lords and ladies. I think there are 2. I'd have to pull it up exactly or to remember. But Lady Naladri, who was a lady, and she was an elf. And there's another one who is, and I think
you said there was
he
a
might
high
be
elf
there. I meant to pull this up.
A sylvan elf lady.
That's right. You did say that last time. Okay, yeah. So he would walk in and kind of stiffly bow next to his companions.
Yeah. And sorry, I'm trying to pull that up right now. There they are. Yes, Lord Klein. He is so if you're looking around the room, you would see Lord Klein there, and he is wearing, let's see, Exalted City of Gamor. He would be wearing the cloak that is itself light yellow, and then on the back of it, a picture of a king knighting a warrior. And he is a high elf, and he stands rather tall. So when you look around to see if there are any other elves in the room, you immediately see him. And he has his nose a bit turned up to all of you. And he seems, if not indifferent, then not necessarily interested. Tarask, did you say you bowed as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay, yes, and the Lord Files will snap his fingers kind of to the guards that escorted you in, and he'll say, "Cheers, please, for our guests, for my saviors." And then he'll turn back to all of the rest of the lords and ladies, and he'll say, "These group of fine young men have assisted me, had assisted me on my way into the city. They indeed fought alongside many of my own archers and warriors and myself. And they prevented my cart from tipping over, and for that I am forever grateful, because it would have been a long walk." And he gestures for you all to sit down, and then everybody else takes their seat as though to continue the conversation. And as they're all sitting, he says, "Yes, I invited them here because I feel that they might be of use to us. As of this time, Lord Colhelm, we have sent out many scout groups to go searching for the fate of many of our brethren across the land. Some have come back, many have not come back. When I saw these young men's fighting prowess on the battlefield, I thought certainly these men would be more than capable of discovering the happenings across the land for us, and perhaps would be interested in exploring a bit of the land for us and reporting back. Is this something that would interest you?" And he looks to, he would look to Tarask, because he, in your brief interaction, has noticed that you are the most standoffish, and he's kind of guessing that you would be the one who would not want to do this or be set against it. So he kind of angles the question towards you.
You ask a great deal. If the price was right, I could be convinced.
And then he looks at the rest of you and he says, "What of you?"
As Taras said, if the price is right, Ishtar is giving like a thumbs up at that.
Lord Klein just kind of rolls his eyes, and he's typical mercenaries. And then the ogre in the room, his name is where did it go? I think his name is Donargal. No, Kodazar, Lord of Donargal. He'll say, "These are men after my own heart. All fighting has a price."
Ishtar gives him a thumbs up now.
Dane says, "I seek only to avenge the death of my master. Perhaps the ones who have killed or held up your compatriots are the same people I seek."
Lord Colhelm will speak, and he'll say, "Yes, we've heard many stories such as yours, many lost loved ones. Our cohorts are the people of this land, indeed, all across Isteran. The deed we are asking you to do is not one to be taken lightly. You are being asked by your lords and ladies for a service. You will be handsomely paid. In fact, money shall be no object. If you have a need, it will be supplied for you. However, with that comes the expectation that you will deliver something for us, and that is information. We only seek to know the fate of those across Isteran whom we've not been able to contact for these 20 years. It's been quite some time since we've heard from our friends across the land." And then sorry, I just have to check something really quick. Lady Sybil, she is a Sylvan elf, and she turns to you, Tarask, and she says, she's Lady of the Forest. So she reigns over the part of the land that you and Dane are both from. And she turns to you, Tarask, and she says, "What tribe are you from?"
I'm from the Kilmari tribe.
Kilmari. Is that truly the name of your tribe, or is that?
It is now.
Okay. All right. Then she
Wait.
would know exactly.
Unless there is one that you already gave me that I'm forgetting, in which case.
No, actually, I was expecting you to say like the tribe of Gawick or something like that. But no, it would make sense for the tribe themselves to have a name separate from the place they're from. So let me write that down. What was the name of it again?
I'll pop it in the text. It's pronounced Kilmari.
Great. Kind of like calamari without the A. With an I. Place the A with an I. Kill. And then take away the I. Anyways. She'll nod and she'll say, being so close to the swamps, have you noticed anything in particular of worry?
He sort of breathes in deeply and looks back at his companions and says, well, it depends. Would you consider a house-sized basilisk worthy of concern?
Oh, they all start clamoring when you say that. And one of them, let me see here. I got to get my lords and ladies straight. This is the first time I've role-played them, so I'm getting them all.
Were we allowed to bring our weapons in?
Yes.
Okay. So I would.
You had an express invitation from Lord Files, and an invitation from a lord or lady assumes absolute trust.
So I would hold up my spear and said, "But we took its teeth."
Okay, those are the ones that are missing. So, before you say that, Korak, it would be Lord Kotazar, the ogre, and he pounds his fist on the table and he says, "A basilisk the size of a house. Do you see what the lady is doing to our land? She's taking creatures and she's doing unnatural things to them." And then Korak holds up his spear and he's like, "And I've got his teeth." And then they all, like, all the chattering stops and they all just kind of stare at your spear for a second. And Lord Kotazar says, "That is truly an impressive weapon, my friend." And he'll stand up and he'll hold his hand out and he'll say, "May I?"
I give it a quick spin and then hand it forward.
And he looks it over. He's like, "A fine weapon indeed. Yes. Yes." And he'll hand it back to you. And he'll say, "You would do good in our territories. You should consider land there." And Lord Klein, then the elf, the high elf, will speak up and he'll say, "No matter. We still need to know where our brethren are, where Lord Gaiman and Lady Incanthar. So, if you are from the north, then perhaps it's because you're more familiar with that land," and he says it condescendingly as though any land you're unfamiliar with would be more difficult for you to travel. He says, "Perhaps you could make your way there first, as Lord Gaiman, or is it Lord Gaiman or is it Lady Incanth? Lord Gaiman. Your Lord Gaiman is the Lord of Lane, City of Towers. That's what they want to do. They want to send you to the City of Towers, to Lane, where you initially, Dane, were at. Yeah, they want you to go there because that is in the direction that you're familiar with, and or at least Lord Klein wants you to go there. And Lord Gaiman, you would know, is a dwarven man. He's a dwarven noble, and he was the Lord of Lane. And as far as you can reckon, nobody has heard from him from the time that that city was assaulted and you were defeated in battle and then found by the monasterial order at Palais.
Okay.
And brought back. So,
Tarask,
yes, they would
wanted to. Who was it that said you should consider land in the north? You do well there, to Korak.
It was the ogre, and he was said that he would to Korak that he should consider land in his territory, and you probably don't have a map of Isteran in front of you right now, but he is Lord of Donargal, and that is a city basically smack dab in the middle of the main continent of Istera, and the territory basically is a large center chunk of Istera, and it's a lot of not forested land, but it's hot. It's a hot what's the word I'm looking for?
Desert?
Like arid.
Arid. Thank you. It's an arid land. It's not desert per se, but it's more like creeping jungle kind of territory.
Because Tarask, when Klein starts to speak, Tarask hears him. But as soon as he gets condescending, Tarask just kind of like bobs his head a little bit and looks back towards. Oh, shoot now. What was his name again? The ogre.
Kotazar. He
looks back to Kotazar and says, "That's interesting that you mentioned that, Lord Kotazar, was it? I see that you're free with your gold, and I'm sure that's well appreciated by most, but I'm after land of my own, and that's what I would demand to take on such a lengthy journey such as this."
He kind of he's amused that you interrupted Lord Klein. He doesn't like him, and you're speaking up while Lord Klein was speaking. Is very disrespectful, and Lord Klein stops and he stares at you. He glares. He's in the middle of a sentence like, well, since you're from the north, perhaps it would be easier for you to begin traveling up that way and check on Lord Gaiman. And then you start talking to Kotazar, and he, well, I never. And Lord Kotazar's, he's got a big grin in his face. He's like, there's plenty of land here around Donargal. We've got, that's certainly something that we can talk about. And he's got a very cheery demeanor about him. He's not much larger than Korak. However, where Korak is tall, how tall is Korak? Like 7 feet?
Yeah, 7 feet.
Yeah. He would be about like 7'3", but Korak is like this orc, and he's fit. You know, he's cut. He's slender and everything. Kotazar is absolutely jacked. Like he's on some kind of like ogre growth hormone. OGH. And he's just absolutely jacked. And so yeah, and he seems.
So that, once he says he's willing, Tarask is just going to say, excellent. And he looks around the whole room and just says, as long as you know what my price is, then I will allow my more nobler companions to discuss the details of our arrangement. And is there anywhere to sit and drink in this room?
There's no drinks for you guys here. All of the lords and ladies have their own goblets in front of them, which all appear to have a greenish liquid in them.
So I'm just going to point to one and say, may I?
Kotazar looks down at his and he says, "It looks like I'm out of some myself." And he looks at one of the guards and he says, "You, more for me and some for him too." And then he looks at he would look at let's see who's the most sheepish looking among you. He would look at Ishtar next, and he said, "You want to try some here too, boy?"
Or why not? Start kind of trying to go like yeah, sure, why not? Like,
yeah, and then among all of this going on, Lord Colhelm will say, yes. And he wants to bring business back to order here, and he says, Lord Klein, I agree with your idea that it would be best if they were to travel back north and check on Lord Gaiman of Lane to see what it is that is preventing him from coming here at such an important time. Surely, we unfortunately fear that his city has been attacked, and however, we've not been able to confirm this.
I can confirm
Have you,
that.
any of you, heard rumors from the north about what has happened to Lane?
I was there when it was attacked.
They go silent and they look at you.
The city was ravaged pretty heavily. I myself was injured, and fortunately, the monastery of Pala was able to rescue and rehabilitate me. I have reason to believe that they have rebuilt, but I know I personally would like to know that for a fact.
Then, when you finish your sentence, then Lady Sybil says, then it's settled. This group will go with our blessing to check on our Lord Gaiman, Lord of the City of Lane. And she will begin to remove her cloak and set it on the chair behind her. And she says to the rest of the room, there is no telling where Lord Gaiman and Lady Incanthar. It is possible that they are dead. It is possible that you will find yourselves in a situation that is quite precarious. I'm sure you understand this. And as such, this council is willing to fund any expeditions that you have, this expedition that you have going forward. I personally am able to guarantee safe charter through the Blighted Vale, as that is my domain, and I can secure a path through the Blighted Vale on your way up. And then she'll look over at Lord Colhelm, and she'll say, Lord Colhelm, surely it would be more expedient for them to travel through the Trollclaw Mountains. Is there any way that you can assist them with this? He's sitting back in his chair at the head of the table, and he kind of rubs his chin a little bit. He says, well, perhaps, but it would be more risky than I think it is worth. And then he'll turn to Korak, and he says, I'll leave it to you all. He's speaking to you, Korak, only because he has to speak to somebody. But he's speaking to you all, and he says, I'll leave it to you. I know of a man in the city here, well, just outside of the city, just south, maybe 2 days' travel, who I have personally commissioned to work on a fleet of airships that I've been working on for quite a many years. However, these airships are unreliable, and presently they could potentially pose more risk to you than they are worth. The benefit, obviously, being that you would be able to bypass virtually any terrain. The drawback being that you could crash in the mountains. And Kodazar, he's got his drink in his hand, and he's like, crash in the mountains? What kind of guarantee is that? Are you trying to get them killed? I've promised them land in my region. I want them to come with me. They should go around and come around the Trollclaws and come through my land. He beats his chest when he says it. And Lord Colhelm, with a smile on his face, He's clearly amused by Kodazar, and he'll raise his hand and he'll say, "I'll leave it to them."
How fast are these ships?
He'll say that they can travel about 60 miles in a day with good weather. With bad weather, it's potentially disastrous. And you would find yourselves, if you survived the crash, in the Trollclaw Mountains, trying to find your way out. And, yeah, that would obviously aggregate to much slower time. However, there are recent innovations on the ships that should prevent such a crash. However, the possibility does exist.
I've already survived the troll calls once.
And then Lady Sybil, and she's a kind of a cute sylvan elf woman. She's probably 5 feet tall, and her ears are actually more stubby than they are long. Like, when you look at the contrast between Lord Klein, the high elf, and Lady Sybil darn near looks like a gnome, like red nose, red cheeks kind of thing. But she's not. She doesn't have like facial hair and doesn't look like a gnome. She's still clearly elven, and she's got some freckles across her face and long, very long brown hair. Probably goes down to her hips, and she'll lean in on one hand and she'll say, "Is that where you've been? This whole city has gone crazy wondering where Korak the Spearbearer had gone."
Yes, I took a trip through the Troll Claws and ended up in the Blighted Vale, where I met my new friends here. It was quite the adventure.
She says, "And I would love to hear it sometime. Also, I would like to talk to you about where you come from and your land. Perhaps sometime in the near future we can talk, and you can fill me in on some details that I would love to hear."
It would be my honor.
And Lord Colhelm will say, "That's not what he said." What was that?
Sorry, something popped up on my phone out of the blue.
Anytime I hear some weird freaking sound, I'm just going to assume it's Russell's phone. Last time it was squeaky, squeaky. So, yeah, they will... Lord Colhelm will say, "I'll leave it to you to make the decision. You can come back in the morning." And he pulls a piece of parchment off of a large stack of untampered with parchments, and he'll just sign his name on it, and he'll pass it over to the closest one, which in my mind was Tarask. He actually hands it to Lord Files, who then hands it to you, Tarask. Speaking of which, Tarask, you have a cup of this green liquid. I want you to make an endurance test for me. And if you have carousing, that will help.
Does Ishtar have to do that?
Ishtar does have to do that.
Ooh.
I do not have carousing.
And while they're making those rolls,
I'm carousing, but my endurance sucks.
would my knowledge of high elf culture, due to my relationship, allow me? French, would I know if the high elf lord or lady, whichever
Klein.
it was, would possibly know of my fiance?
Lord Klein is lord over a different region, so you would reckon that he would not have any clue.
Okay.
And you also question whether or not he would even care.
Okay.
Yeah, he seems rather indignant to most of this, except for that he seems to be the most, of all of them, seems to be the most up in arms over the
expedition.
Lady Naladri. No, Lady Naladri. He seems to be the one who's raising the biggest exclamation about, kind of the biggest, like, end of the world kind of thing because of what she's doing.
Okay.
And no doubt you guys have seen her do some pretty end of the worldy type stuff. And so his alarm is certainly warranted, but in this council room, he seems to be the most unhinged about it.
Okay.
He's not wrong. He's just kind of an ass.
Yeah.
Ishtar got a 16 on his endurance.
Oh, yeah. Then, Tarask, I just need to know what you got.
An 11.
11. Okay. Ishtar, it goes down. It is sweet. It's almost sickening sweet. And when it hits your throat, actually just after it hits your throat, it's like all the initial like taste of it and everything, it goes down. It has this very flowery, fluorescent, well, I guess fluorescent wouldn't be the right word, flowery, floral, thank you, taste about it, and then an intense sweetness as it goes down. And then as soon as it hits the bottom of your neck, it like you feel your insides just go on fire, like you're 19 or 18 or whatever, and you just took like your first shot of like Bacardi 151 or something like that. It's really intense. It just burns your stomach. However, you're able to keep it down, and you're like, oh wow, that's some good stuff. And Kodazar looks, Kodazar looks genuinely impressed. Yes, and he looks genuinely impressed that you were able to take that and appear no worse for the wear. Tarask, on the other hand, you are kind of like you're kind of like leaning back in your chair a little bit, and you've got your drink and whatever, and you're like, and you take a drink, and then as soon as it hits your stomach, you're like, oh, and you tip back on your chair and you fall on the floor in the room, and you just eat it, and things get a little topsy-turvy in the room for you. You've noticed, the others would have noticed that the drinks that each of the other lords and ladies have, except for Lord Cortazar, they've barely touched them. And when they have taken a drink from them, they've sipped on them. And you just take it like a drink, and it just like hits your stomach like a firecracker, and it sends you on the floor. And okay. Lady Sybil will giggle.
Korak will actually have to try this, as it is my hook.
Dane will just wryly smile at the events.
Kodazar bursts out in laughter, and he says, "These folks will do fine."
What kind of madness is this? I thought you wanted us to go on a quest, not die of poisoners.
Ha 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 ha. And Lady Sybil's over there just giggling, and Lord Klein, he's just rolling his eyes, indignant as ever. And the guard will bring Korak a drink. And
you rolled a
Lord
15.
Cohelm. Okay, actually, you needed a 16, but you're close enough to where it doesn't like keel you over and put you on the ground. But it does hit your stomach like. Now, let me ask you this: did you take it like a shot, like the other two did, or did you sip it like you had noticed the others, lords and ladies, doing?
I'm an orc.
that
okay.
He took the whole thing in one shot.
Yeah, you take it
stuff.
and yeah, exactly. You're like, good stuff, and then you set the cup down, and it starts to kind of creep back up your throat a little bit, and you're like, it's visible, like on your face is turning beet red, even though you've got like green skin, and you're like, and Kodazar is just like, yes, and for the two of you, Korak and Tarask, things get a little, the beginning of intoxication. You're on the first steps to being, having hair on your chest. So, with that, Lord Colhelm will say, he's got a smile on his face. He's definitely amused by all of this, and he'll stand. And when he stands, everybody stands.
Leave it to us to turn a royal meeting into a drinking party.
Speak for yourselves. As they rise, I also rise.
Yes, I will rise as well.
Tarask, you're already risen because you brought yourself back up to your feet. What kind of madness is this? And then Ishtar, I'm assuming you rise as well.
Yeah, when I was like going to Kodazar at the cup saying good stuff, I would have stood up there.
Yes, and Lord Colhelm rises. They all rise, and they all at once, except for Lady Sybil, who has already taken her cloak off. They all, in like fashion, begin to just unclasp their cloaks and place them on the back of the chair behind them. And a guard comes over to you four and gestures for you to get out of the room. And the lords and ladies will follow.
I will bow to them and then take my leave.
I follow.
Ishtar puts a lot more effort into the bow this time.
And then I was going to say,
I wanted to get to Tarask. Is he having any issues following?
I don't know. You tell me. I mean, I think I'm stumbling a bit, maybe, but I think as long as I don't drink anymore, I should be okay.
Korak will
it's
put
just
his arm around
not...
Tarask and go, come on.
Yeah, no, you're not like drunk or anything. It's just the very beginnings of you feel like that one drink got you. You're not. Let's see, you're not a 2-beer queer.
Yeah,
but if you were, that was the first one.
I'm walking bent over a little bit, like rubbing my stomach because it still feels like lava has gone down my throat, and like I'm just like massive indigestion, heartburn, basically.
Yeah. So you guys are escorted out of the room. The door does close behind you. They looked as though they were about to leave. However, you all were escorted out first, and you continue to be escorted out of the throne room, out of the foyer, and back outside the palace, or outside the keep, where the guards are all informed that you are to be coming back tomorrow with your decision on how you choose to make your way up north. So a quick refresher, you've had Lady Sybil offer to guarantee that you would find safe passage through the Blighted Vale if you were to go by land. You've also had a guarantee from all of the lords and ladies that this entire expedition will be fully funded, and anything that you need or should want in order to go will be taken care of for you. And then the other thing was that Lord Colhelm said that you could choose, if you wanted to basically darn near like test drive one of these airships on this expedition. And they have a few of them. However, there's an inherent risk in taking one of these, especially given how my random weather rolls have played out in the past.
Joy.
Does Ishtar know, like, if we choose whatever option, is that us making like a political statement also, or hypothetically say if we want to take the airships, is that saying we favor that lord? I guess this is more out of character. What Or would Ishtar know that?
Ishtar himself, I think, would be ignorant of that kind
That's
of.
what I kind of figured.
Well, no. You were a noble, and so you might actually be thinking about that kind of thing. However, you've never been at this level before, and so you're unsure whether or not those petty politics would come into play when it comes to the lords and ladies themselves. You're not 100% positive, because that realm of things, you're like, this situation seems to be one of greater import, such that...
Well, Ishtar typically, he might think that, and then it's like, the real decision, he would start drinking then.
Nice.
I look to, everybody and say, I realize we have some decisions to make, but we also have some people to see. Daniel is expecting us. And considering what just happened this overnight, I think it's drastically important that we get there now.
Oh, yeah, what time of day is it? This is still morning, right?
Yeah, when you come out, it's about lunchtime, roughly.
Ishtar has no objection with Daniel.
Let's go see the book boy.
Yeah,
Right.
and looking at the backpack, he'd be like, we do have a fairly, I don't know how to put it. It's a small item of grand concern.
Or if you recall, it's no longer in the backpack. It's on my shoulder, obfuscated.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Do you have that in the throne room?
It was in the throne room.
That particular detail was kind of glossed over for the sake of time. However, it would have nestled itself into your backpack during this. Yeah, I imagined it being in there, and if the drinking things wouldn't have happened, then you might have noticed it and gotten nervous about it wiggling around in there. But everybody was way too distracted with the drinking, and so it really didn't ever become a problem.
See, our drinking had a purpose.
Thank you, my drunkard friends.
Sure, gives a thumbs up to that.
You all make your way out from the palace back down. Let me pull the map of Nala back up again. Okay, yes, you leave Elverstone Keep, and you are escorted as far as the end of the barracks, the edge of the barracks. And in fact, where the entrance to the barracks is where you met the guards and where you were escorted on further, because typical citizenry are not allowed inside the barracks. The purple districts that you see there, those are the noble districts, and that's where all the noble housing and stuff like that. The light green district is the noble market district, and so that's where the nobles go to shop away from the normal marketplace. And so much higher end restaurants, much higher end wares, and so on and so forth. And the further away you get from the noble market district, the less noble the nobles are. So the nobles that are right up against the arcane district are like third cousins, twice removed kind of thing. And then as a quick reminder, the entranceway up there in the upper right-hand corner, that is basically smashed to bits, and the road going all the way up to the marketplace, along all of that road is destroyed buildings and all that kind of stuff that's still being cleaned up. So anyways, you get escorted out of the barracks, and you are left out there right in front of the Grand Library to your right. And if you've decided to go to the Arcane District, then your quickest route would be to go in between the barracks and the Grand Library and up around the Noble District and into the Arcane District, where you're able to locate Daniel's shop. when you get there, you see him locking the door as though he is about to leave to go somewhere. And indeed, when you come upon him and he turns around and sees you all there, he's got like a stack of books in his arms, and he turns around and you're standing there, and he's like, oh jeez, and he drops all of his books. And when he does, you see kind of this side of him that you haven't really seen before. You've seen him in the shop working like a nerd on the books and stuff like that, but he really looks super nerdy right now. And it's such a far cry from the way he looks when he's in his elder robes and everything. And you just get this feeling like you're not 100% sure if the Daniel that you know is truly the elder he claims to be, or if he is just this like really dorky guy. And he says, oh, you frightened me. You snuck up on me. Oh, yes. Have you met with the lords and ladies?
We have. We just left there just moments ago. We have been asked to travel to Lane.
Ah, he says, well, I was just on my way to lunch. You're more than welcome to join me.
I have something that may be of interest to you that may change your lunch plans.
He says, I don't know. I'm pretty hungry.
At that point, I take off the backpack. I put it down to where he can look down into it and open.
He will peer down in, and then he drops his books again. Except this time he doesn't bend down to pick them up. He just stares into the bag. And he'll slowly look back up at you. And he'll say, I've lost my appetite. And he'll snap himself out of it, and he'll say, close your bag. And he'll pick his book. He'll pick his books back up and unlock his door, let you all inside, relock his door, turn the sign that says out to lunch, and usher you all back downstairs to meet privately with you. And when you all are down there, he, instead of this time, like, slowly going and grabbing his robe and all these sorts of things, he marches over to where his staff is. You don't see it there, but he grabs something from the wall. His staff was apparently like invisible, leaning up against the wall or whatever. He grabs it, he twirls it above his head, and then his robes and everything just magically appear on him, like they've just fallen down onto him, like they're, and then he's fully dressed, and he's looking all official and everything. And he gestures for you all to sit. He says, please, sit. And as you're sitting, he will say, so it's hatched. This is wonderful. We've been given such a great gift, such a responsibility. Oh, such a thing must be protected with our lives. Do you have plans on how to keep it safe? Do you, what do you intend on feeding it? What do we? And he'll go and grab a book, and he says, what do you even feed dragons? And then, as he's looking through this book or whatever, and you're all kind of like looking around, like you've already met this thing, you already know what's going on and everything. He's, all of a sudden you see the dragon crawl out of your bag and scurry over to him and claw its way up his robe, and then go invisible halfway up the way, and then goes over to his shoulder, and then reappears looking down at the same book he's looking at. He's like, what do you do? And everything. And then it just kind of like, it turns to him, and it just starts licking his...
I say, it appears that Karasilth likes you.
He says, he looks back and says, You've named it? He says,
what
you
else
can-
would you,
you can-
what else would you do when you have a baby?
Yeah, you
he
named
says, he's not taking his eyes off the blue lizard on his shoulder, and he puts his book down, and he very gently now and calmly puts his hand out to his shoulder, and the dragon will hop onto his hand, and he'll look at it, and he'll say, well, you can name it. You can give it any nickname you choose. However, dragons are born with a name. We don't know until they're able to tell us. However, if it responds to that, then that's all. I guess that works.
It is going to be able to talk to us.
He says, have you never read the tales of the great dragons of old?
Okay, my
Okay,
lore master.
I'm
This
a
would be a lore
gladiator.
master check.
I don't read much.
So any of you who choose to can make a logic history test.
Okay.
This would be outside of the realm of religion at this point, because it's so far.
You said
It's been a long time since
Logic history?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, all of the religions that are strewn about Nala at this point are derivative of the original kind of worshipping of the dragons. And so thus, any knowledge of religion is about recent religions. You would need to know about the history of these things rather than religion.
Got a 15. Had 2 6s and just didn't get lucky with a third one.
Okay. Does anybody else want to make a logic history test?
Ooh.
Not really my area.
6.
Awesome.
Ishtar tried. He's like, or not Ishtar,
I guess.
Korak.
I only rolled 2 dice and I got 2 1s on it, so.
Oh God.
That's pretty bad.
6.
Okay. All right. So yes, Dane, you're not, there's not a lot of material to read up about these kinds of things. However, the ones that you did ever read, you happened to find around the temple, and they seemed more like fairy tales and fantasy books to you at that time when you found them and read them, and how seriously you were taking your training, you didn't really sit down and find a lot of time to enjoy reading fantasy books and so on and so forth. But when you think back to it, you remember flipping through a book on some off time, and you can think of a time that you read of one particular detail that comes to mind here, and that is that you, and it's pictures really at this point, not so much the words, but you remember reading about how the story about how a dragon was living amongst the people, and nobody knew it was, because the dragon itself took the form of a normal person, and the story was a kind of a sheep and wolf's, or a wolf in sheep's clothing, except at the end, it didn't turn out to be a wolf. It turned out to be a grand dragon that laid waste to this terrible, for lack of a better way of putting it, like big sinful nation, kind of like a Sodom and Gomorrah kind of thing. Except instead of fire and brimstone raining down from the heavens, it was this dragon masquerading as a person the entire time, and slowly over time judging the city, and then springing forth as its true form and decimating the city.
Okay.
And so you would reckon that the dragon, as soon as it was able to do magic such as like transforming itself into different types of beings and so on and so forth, that about that time it would probably have the ability to talk and so on.
I mean, it's already got the ability to go invisible, so we know it's a very powerful creature when within a day of its birth, it's already going invisible on us. And after, I guess, with it being out, how far along is it in its development compared to when I saw it earlier today? Or first thing in the morning?
At first glance, not too much further. I mean, if you had a measuring stick and you were measuring how far the little ridges on its little stubs had grown a little bit, you'd probably reckon they'd grown a little bit, but not all that much.
Okay.
But then so yes, that was the answer to your question. That was the story that you remembered. So he's just here kind of asking the group, have you never read the stories of the great dragons? And then when you think about it, that's what you remember. So is there anything you choose to do after that?
I tell him, I seem to recall a story of a dragon that disguised itself as a human only to destroy the city that it lived in when they were I guess when they suffered when they committed many transgressions.
He says, yes, that is a great tale of the red dragon. Yes, vengeance is his, to be sure. And then he'll continue to say that as he kind of marvels at this dragon in front of him, he struggles to speak at first, but then he finally is able to describe a little bit more about dragons. And he says that each dragon, when we were given these as a gift from the true goddess, Adrian, that they were to represent aspects of ourselves. And the idea was that each person, being different in their own way, would be naturally drawn to one of the three dragons. And they would be naturally drawn to whichever one they most identified with. And he said, for instance, the dragon from your tale was the red dragon. And he traverses in the domains of chaos and strength and war and justice. Blue dragons, on the other hand, and the blue dragon perks its head up and tilts its head, and then does a spin around on his hand, like it knows that that he's talking about it. And he says they represent the domains of wisdom and despair, and tranquility and regret. And he says, and there is a third, there is the green dragon, and they represent the domains of envy, of growth, of trickery, and of nature. And then he'll put his hand, he'll bend down to the ground, and he'll put his hand to the ground and allow the dragon to kind of run back over to Dane's bag. It detours, it doesn't go back to the bag, it just kind of like runs over to some random direction, like a puppy that doesn't know what it wants to do. There's so many new things to go look and see. And then it runs over to Ishtar and it climbs up on your lute. And it starts to chew on one of your strings.
Oh, I know. I don't bat it off, but I definitely pick it up.
Yeah, it looks at you. If it could look angry that you're trying to stop it, it would. It doesn't want you to. It wants this string.
If it does want the string, so I, holding it kind of outstretched, I walk it towards Dane.
While you're walking it over, he breaks the string on the lute, but when it does, the string goes and it slaps it, and it cuts a little bit of on the dragon. And when it does, the dragon instantly lets go of the string, and its natural reaction is to jump off and to fly and to go away. And when it does that, you see the stubs on its back just try to grow a little bit, and they grow in size a little bit, but they don't grow into full wings at all. They just become slightly larger stubs, and it's tumbling through the air. Probably closest at this point to, I was imagining it in my mind, it's closest to Korak. Korak, you have an opportunity to catch it before it tumbles and falls and hits the ground. So that's going to be just an agility. And if you have, actually, it's going to be more like an initiative roll. And I'm going to roll actually, it's going to be a static difficulty. I just need to
So I'm
look at
rolling
the difficulty real
initiative.
quick. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I rolled a 19, which was
Okay, good. You were looking for a 13.
pretty bad.
Well, you were looking for a 13 or higher, and so yes, you're able to quickly snatch it before it hits the ground. And the little spot that you see that the string cut on its side a little bit isn't bleeding, but you do see the some of its blood from the cut. And again, it's not dripping; it's more of a slash across its back. It's not bad, but when you get a look at its blood, it is this beautiful blue, almost crystalline color that almost shimmers when you look at it. And as soon as just as quickly as you caught it and you caught a glimpse of its slash on its back, it curls around and it goes invisible, and you feel it crawl up your arm over to your shoulder and leap off of your shoulder. And then, Dane, you feel the thing clamber on your shoulder, go down and go hide in your backpack. Again, you see your backpack move, and it clambers down into there. And then upon seeing
was a dragon.
Right. Upon seeing all of this happen, Daniel will say, he says, "Yes, blue dragons represent wisdom. I guess he's got a long way to go."
And regret.
And regret. Yes. And so, let's see. Is there anything else he would regale you of the dragons? He would actually probably be really excited and start just telling you everything he knows about dragons from the olden days. And it would be your choice whether or not you wanted to actually listen to him or interrupt him throughout this, because he's going to just start talking.
I would probably stop him and say, "I appreciate all the information you have for us. However, we do have our missions to complete. Just wanted to make you aware of what was going on here, since you have done so much for us."
Yeah. Yes, he says, yes, of course. Well, so you're traveling north to Lane.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. The attack that just came on Nala is something that we have to investigate. And he turns to Dane. And he says, "Dane, you will notice throughout our training that as a member of the Order of the White Flame, we are drawn to the darkness in the same way plants and living things are drawn to the sunlight. When there is darkness in the land, when there is an obvious affront to the goodness of our god, the White Dragon, then we are compelled to seek this out and to drive it out. you will learn this. You will begin to feel this in time. And he says, however, for the time being, I will travel with you. I will not travel as Dane the bookbinder, however. I will come with you simply as a servant who is here to help you carry your things and provide any assistance that you would need that an extra set of hands could provide, as far as anybody else is concerned. And along our way, we will begin our training, and we will begin to learn the things that we have to learn. And then he says, okay, and he looks at everybody.
That seems to be a fair trade.
Will that mean you will teach us more about the Knights of the White Flame as well?
He says, yes, of course. As we journey north, we will find the source of these undead that attacked the city. Now, your charge for the lords and lady of the land is to go directly to Lane. However, we are going to be making a detour, and we are going to be rooting out the source of this evil. Now, we know that this evil is emanating from the Lady Naladri. However, she in her form is incapable of doing these types of magical feats. She is powerful indeed, however, her magic lies in other schools of magic. What we saw assault our city is something that needs to be addressed immediately. It is somebody or something that has allied themselves with Lady Naladri and needs to be taken care of. Somebody very powerful.
And you believe that by seeking this individual out, we will be able to reclaim my master's ring?
He says, oh, no. Your master's ring is, well, most likely not where this person is, or this, whoever it is, performing these great magical deeds of summoning undead hordes and building-sized skeletons and the like. We are, as Knights of the White Flame, going to drive this person out and destroy him, obliterate him. It is our duty.
Can we take flying ships to do it?
He says, flying ships?
Yes, we've been offered rides on flying ships by Lord Colhelm.
Now, what I totally imagined, and you guys can tell me if you want this to happen or not, but what I totally imagined there is, because we could catch up on the details later, is like flying ships, and then suddenly we're all there. You guys are traveling on the flying ship, and and you guys are going to where you need to go. I mean, that's just how it would happen.
I know Ishtar wanted to visit some shops to get some stuff, but as long as we can retcon that, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, as long as we're able to acquire certain things, and actually that would work for us if we did jump ahead and just outside of game we discussed what items we wish to obtain to further ourselves along for this journey. Since the nobles are willing to, since the lords and ladies are willing to fund us appropriately.
Yeah. Great. So, yes, this episode fades to black. He's like, airship? As though like those two words don't belong together. And then suddenly you are all there on this magnificent airship that has just these big flapping wings on the side of it, and
so
we'll
not
pick
like
up
an
there.
original.
No, we'll pick up there next time. Before we go, though, that night,
I just sorry, I had a baby break.
Yeah.
What happened?
We're on the airship.
Last I heard, we were taking a detour.
Last you heard, we were taking a detour where?
I think he's referring
Still.
to the detour on the way to Lane.
Okay, yeah, basically, and then you guys are poof, you're magically on an airship and you're on your way to Lane. And we're going to kind of backfill in some of the details thereafter. So if there's things you want to get in the city, people you want to see and whatever, then you can let me know in the server chat, and then when we meet next time, we will go over all of that before we continue on our airship adventure. But the way it had happened was like, who had asked it? It was Korak. He was like, do you think we could do it on an airship? And then Daniel was like, an airship? And then boom, you're there and you're all flying in midair and you're on your way to your destination.
Already.
However, so before we leave, though, I wanted to say that night, so whatever happens on the rest of the day, whoever else you visit, great. You guys find your way back at some place to sleep, most likely the Rise and Grind lunchroom. And you are all asleep. In your sleep, the four of you, no, the three of you, no, it'd be the four of you, awaken, and you all feel strange when you wake up. And you feel strangely, like, really awake. And so your natural thing would be to get up out of bed, stretch, look around. It's still the middle of the night. You got no idea what's going on. You turn around and you look, and you're still sleeping in your bed. However, you see your body kind of almost encased in this very thin, white, luminescent light. And when you touch yourself, you touch things, everything feels real. You're not passing through anything. And you make your way to the door to find each one of you all have done the same thing. You all are meeting now in this spiritual kind of form. And then standing there in the hallway with you is Daniel. And he is fully garbed in his robes. And he says, this is when the training begins.
Nice.
And he says, when we are like this, when our spirits are called forth from our bodies, it is something that we are able to do that I am able to do for you. I'm able to call forth your spirits from your body. However, your bodies receive no rest in the night this way. When you wake up, you will not feel as though you've rested. So, taking advantage of this time that we have does have its drawbacks. And so he will gesture for all of you to follow him, and where you make your way outside. And when you do, he leads you kind of, let's see, you're staying at the Rise and Grind lunchroom, and you're in the trade district. And the Rise and Grind lunchroom is in one of those two gaps right alongside the housing district.
Aren't we on an airship?
No, we're backtracking.
This is before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It was like the night.
Yeah, this is
before.
that night. So, yeah, the very same day that you met with the lords and ladies, that you just went and met with Daniel and everything, that night is now.
Got it.
And basically, I'm just describing this to you as what's happening instead of just like being like, okay, yeah, and he gives you these abilities. Okay, so he takes you outside of the trade district, outside of the housing district, and it's a very long walk. You know, you guys are walking for about 2 hours, and then finally you're out into a field in the mountains. It's quite beautiful. The stars are out. And he begins to walk to each one of you, and he will place his hand on your shoulder where he had branded you with that ring. And he'll go up to you, Tarask. And he'll pull his hand out slowly as though he's drawing something out of you. And indeed, when he does, you see a bright light come from your shoulder, piercing bright light. It doesn't hurt, though, and you see that flame come up out of your shoulder, and it lands down in the palms of your hands, and it sits there and it cackles in front of you as a flame. And he'll tell you to eat it.
I'll look a bit quizzical, but I've come to, I guess, trust Daniel, and kind of, cautiously place this white flame in my mouth.
Yeah, and actually, I should have mentioned, this flame is actually, it looks natural. It looks like an orange burning fire flame.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I eat the regular flame.
Yeah, so you eat it, and you see it, and the rest of you see this light go down his throat and down his chest, and then it kind of emanates all around of it, his body. And Daniel says, "Yes, good." And he reaches behind him, and he pulls out a long scroll case, and he pulls it out in front of him, and he opens it up, and he reaches down in, and he pulls out this scroll, and he opens it up, looks it over, nods, and he closes it, and he says, "Eat this."
To who?
He hands you the scroll. To Tarask.
Oh, okay.
He just kind of like sighs, like looking at it like, oh, lords above, how is this going to work? Then he takes it and he tries. Does it work?
Yeah, as soon as you start to like put it in your mouth, you see kind of the scroll just kind of, you don't have to chew it or anything. You just have to like, and it kind of magically, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, kind of deconstructs or crumbles, magically crumbles, and yeah, you're able to just kind of eat this scroll, and it goes down into you. And then Daniel will say to you, you now have learned a new ability. This is a gift that I have given you. I only have one such gift for each of you that we can do this way. And yours is that of stealth. And Rory, kind of meta, if you open up to page 201 in the book, you'll see a spell there called Chameleon Cloak. And twice per day, you're going to be able to cast that spell.
Nice.
Let me find it, and I'll read it for everybody. So, Chameleon Cloak is an illusion spell. And basically, the affected creature is concealed by a simple illusion, changing its color to match the surroundings. The target gains plus 2d6 to attempts at stealth for the duration. And it lasts for 5 minutes. So you have twice per day for 5 minutes, you are able to basically stealth really well. Yeah.
Does that go in conjunction with nature's camouflage that I have?
It'll stack.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep, and then he'll do the same with you, Korak. He'll draw that out of your shoulder, and he will tell you to eat the flame, which you do?
Yes. Hey.
Okay.
That's my hook. Trying to eat new things.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like anything. It doesn't burn. In fact, it's kind of almost like eating air. You eat this, and then what you do feel though is that pulse go through your body, and it is warm. And then he hands you a scroll and tells you to eat it.
I do.
Okay, now I need to pull up the Eons article that if you have it, it's Eons 59, Catalogus 9em. And it is Strike Through Stone.
Oh,
and
nice.
I'll just copy and paste that to the chat. But basically, it's going to allow you once per day. I think, did I write once per day? Yeah, once per day, you can cast this, and it lasts for 1 minute.
Rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, 1 minute is 10 rounds in combat. And so your attack selectively passes through stone harmlessly, and it hurts only those who you want it to strike. More interestingly, for Korak, though, it ignores armor and shield soak values, and it deals damage normally. So basically, yeah, you get this once per day for 1 minute. You can activate this and bypass soak, strike through stone if need be, and yeah, land a hit.
Cool.
Completely bypassing soak. Yes, and the MP costs for all of these don't apply in these particular cases. It's just an ability that you get to activate. So then we do the same with Ishtar. He draws it out of you and hands you a scroll. Does he comply?
After seeing Tarask and Korak, then yes, Ishtar would. Would have been a lot easier if he was first.
Now for you, he comes to you and he says, for you, I noticed you are a musician. He says, how about we make better use of that loot? And once per day, you're going to be able to cast, in the same article, I don't know if you have the Eons article, Eons 59, Catalogus 9em. It's called Cacophonous Blast. Once per day. So there it is. It's basically 2d6 sound damage in a 20-foot cone in front of you,
Nice.
pushing everybody back 5 feet. Yeah.
Sonic Blast, okay.
Sonic Boom!
Yep, exactly.
Okay, that's
And yes, and you all, the three of you will get a skill point, 1 skill point because you have time, so you can spend a little bit of time now to train a skill that you have and bring it up by 1 point. It has to be a skill that you have. You can't buy a new skill with this point. You just are training in a skill that you have currently. And that will go for you too, Dane.
Okay.
However, before you get that, he comes over to you and he says, you do not yet have your ring and you do not yet have the mark. However, you are, because your master has perished, you are next in line to be part of this order. And as such, it is within my authority to grant you a gift. However, the gift that you receive is going to be a bit of in a different nature. And this time he will, instead of drawing a thing out of you, he'll just hold his hand on your chest and he'll close his eyes and he'll concentrate hard. And you see these very similar looking pulses of white light going throughout your body that feel very warm. And when he pulls his hand back from you, he says, I told you that we, as members of the order, will be drawn to evil, to darkness, the same way nature is drawn to light. You will now be able to sense that darkness better.
Okay.
Which is code name for
An exploit, I'm guessing.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. He brings you up to 3 points of divination. So you have 3 in divination.
Okay.
You're granted +1 magic point. So your magic attribute goes up by 1.
Okay.
You learn the secret of shadow. You learn the secret of shadow. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll just add that to my secrets I have listed in my exploits.
Yep. So in total, you got +1 to your magic attribute. You got +2 points in divination, and you learned the secret of shadow. And then on top of that, you all got some time to spend training in whatever skills you so choose to train in, granting yourselves 1 point in that attribute.